Ads can be amazing. Make you laugh, cry, and feel. But what if they were made of even better stuff? Wonderful stuff, clever stuff, that partners the power of TV with the precision of data. So you can zoom in, bring your audience into focus, and guide all the right ads to all the right people. Because TV got complicated. More screens, more shows, more ways to hit play. We take all of that, uncomplicate it, and put all its power in one place. Then we help use it wisely by connecting campaigns across screens that light up living rooms, energize public places, and illuminate phones. Ads you watch all the way through, full screen, brand safe, unswitch-offable stories, driving great results for advertisers in the middle of great TV. Finecast.
Jakob Nielsen at Finecast, as you heard. So, I mean, it's been very positive for TV so far this morning. I know you're a big fan of TV, so just tell us why, first of all.
Well, let me first of all say thank you for coming here, and what lovely it is to be in Manchester, where, as you can hear from my accent, I'm Danish, Copenhagen, same level as Manchester. And you can actually go to breakfast and say good morning to people without being looked at weirdly. So that's very nice to be here. TV is tremendously exciting. It's and actually it goes. If you forget advertising a little bit, it goes back to how we view TV today. Right? If we go 10 years back, and we looked at the TV viewing experience, we had limited choices of content viewing. We had to be there at 8 p.m. If there was a show at 8 p.m. We were late for half an hour, we would miss some of that. Today we have unlimited content choices. There are billions and billions of pounds and dollars being invested in TV. We can watch it when we want it on big, beautiful screens. So when people are saying TV is dying, they have no idea what they're talking about. How can TV be dying when it's the one of the most exciting things to watch right now? It's changing a lot, and that's what we should be talking about, the change, not that TV is dying. Yeah. It's very exciting.
And do you think that there is a misconception about TV in the market amongst people that matter, people who are buying, or do they get the fact that it's changing fast and it's updated itself?
Yeah, I think digital people love to say that TV is dying and paint that picture, but I think that TV is changing a lot. If you think about it, TV is, from a linear perspective, is declining. It's a fact. We know all the numbers about that. But total TV is not declining. It's just going into this whole on-demand world, and people understand that. But that's a big shift. It's a big change when you do that. If you go back to the 50s, 1950s, when radio consumption was bigger than TV consumption, when that flipped and TV consumption became bigger than radio, it took 4.5 years for advertising to follow. So it takes time. We are planning linear TV campaigns for the last 20 years, and now all of a sudden we need this data-driven, addressable TV stuff. How does that fit in? That takes a bit of time to figure out, and I think people realize that.
Just in terms of total reach, are you satisfied that TV, if you take linear plus all the new on-demand, do you end up with the same reach that you always had, or that you need at least?
You have different audience groups, right? That varies, but yeah, I think in general, if you an example of where TV particularly is changing is if you look at linear TV in the 16 to 34-year-old, according to Barb, the commercial impacts of that the last 2 years has declined by nearly 23%. Not 1, 2, 3%, but nearly 23%. So if you are an advertiser that wants to reach, just simply reach, which TV is brilliant at, that audience, you have to think differently. You have to start finding that audience in different places. But you can actually, a lot of that audience, 16 to 34-year-old, are going into the on-demand world and different screens. So you start looking at that. That's more complex, that's much more difficult to buy.
I mean, what is the sentiment amongst the Group N client base with regards to digital and TV? Because TV has come under a lot of pressure. I mean, we got the sense that maybe we've reached the high watermark now in terms of pro-digital sentiment. I mean, is there a shift back towards TV?
Yeah, we had literally yesterday, we were together, all the trading people in the UK. We had a away day, and we were discussing this across all our clients. It varies from client, the answer varies from client to client. But if we look at it across all clients, there are different aspects. Facebook has a fantastic property. What you can do with brands and how you can use Facebook is very, very valuable. But they haven't helped themselves tremendously this year. The measurement issues, the fake news, the data leakage, etc. Advertisers are saying, our brands in that environment, that's not cool. We love the trusted environment of TV that's regulated, etc. But we love that data enablement. We love that targeting, and that's addressable TV. I'm looking at Jamie from AdSmart here. Sky has done a fantastic job in driving addressable TV in the last 5 years, and that's it. And if you ask Sky, they probably get a lot of money that Facebook used to get, and that's moving into Sky, and we see the same in Finecast.
So the people, I mean, there is money shifting back from digital spend slightly to TV, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and then do they come with a different expectation? So people who have spent with Facebook, when they bring some of that budget back, are they looking for more data enablement, and do they want targeting on TV?
Yeah, because you are, if you are in an environment where you can do a lot of detailed targeting, and then you come to an environment which is a traditional linear, which is done in different ways, your expectation is different. But then there's obviously an education phase, because the TV world, the addressable TV world, is a household-based targeting world. It's not a cookie-based world, and therefore everything changes around that. And you need to understand that. You need to understand the assets and the value you can get out of that.
And the clients you're helping to reach addressable inventory, what is their actual strategy for targeting? How are they using it as campaigns?
It varies a lot, but a couple of examples. If you go back to the example of the 16 to 34-year-old that are declining commercial impacts, you have clients that go out and say, we simply can't reach those audiences anymore. Can you help us go out and reach them in the world of this whole on-demand world? So what we, over the last 4 or 5 years, have built within Finecast in the UK, we built access into different devices like UView, Virgin, Sky, OTT devices like Chromecast, and a lot of different aspects. We even are on Samsung TV, on PlayStation, Xboxes, and we serve ads on all the big broadcasters in the UK, Channel 4, 5, ITV and Sky. So we all of a sudden have made this super, super complex world much more simple. And therefore advertisers saying we can't reach, we just want to reach the all adults or whatever they want to reach in the on-demand world. So we have clients thinking that. Then we have clients, we have a big automobile client that as of I think last week I saw they're saying that typically advertising is done at the country level. So if you are a car dealership, you wouldn't do TV advertising, because if you are a car dealership in Manchester, it's very difficult to do TV advertising without doing it for Liverpool, etc., etc. So it doesn't make sense for a dealership to do that. But now with addressable TV, you start seeing different ads going into different parts of the country. So because we can do postcode targeting, all of a sudden the dealership in Manchester can start doing TV advertising. And you see that all over the country, and that changes the whole, you can imagine how that changes the marketing conversations within that TV brand, automobile brand. All of a sudden the dealerships can have more impact on where it's going, etc. And that's exciting. And then you obviously have clients that are bringing their own data in a TV world. In a digital world, you're like, what's exciting about that? But in a TV world, you all of a sudden can start taking your own first-party data and start adding that to the different data sets we have and we buy from broadcasters. Then it just enables so many opportunities.
Okay, well, give us a bit more detail about what you could do if somebody brings their own data. Then give us an idea of how first-party data could be used by the advertiser.
Well, first of all, we get different. We go out and buy data. We buy data from Experian, from Mastercard, from Boots, that we've done some new deals. So we go out and say, what data do we need versus what clients want, first of all. Second of all, we get data from broadcasters, different sets of data. Some broadcasters give us more, some broadcasters give us less. But if you are a client that wants to target, and you have data that wants to target in a proximity, we can go out and get you drive time data. We can then take all the data you have, and then we can start driving footfalls into your stores. We've done that with some clients in the UK, and we couldn't have done that without using their own data.
Okay. And we've heard a lot about metrics and short-term attribution. Now, obviously, can you even come close to competing with digital in terms of attribution? So you mentioned footfall into stores. I mean, what kind of data can you give me back to prove that it worked in terms of an addressable campaign?
Yeah, we don't compare with TV because digital, sorry, because as a startup you are in a cookie world versus a household world. We are talking TV here, and TV is very different. It's household based. But what we often do is different elements of data. First of all, BARB, which is the gold standard of TV measurements in the UK. They have different versions of a project they call Dovetail, and they are in Q4, I think it is, next year, coming out where they start measuring connected TVs. So all of a sudden you start getting a gold standard that can measure all that. But remember, addressable TV is still new, so there's no gold standard in that yet. So what we're doing is we're getting different data like what devices we run on, what completion rates we have. So we go out and we go out and calculate. If you look at some of the big digital players, you will typically see from some of them completion rates of 54% and completion rates of 17%. In TV, you work above 90%. So all of a sudden, when you start pricing out the different element and the outgoing price, it's actually completely different from a price perspective. And from a price perspective, we have pricing tools that's been developed with the broadcasters where we go in and you are an advertiser and you say, I want to reach a base audience, and then we have the capabilities based on what you desire to start adding other prices, so it's completely transparent of what you're buying from that aspect.
So TV targeting compares very favourably to digital. It's actually, if you count the effectiveness, it's better.
Yeah, we see that. Well, you've seen the other presentations today, they say very much the same. It's tricky to still do it at scale. So that's what we're working on. The whole industry is working on that for the next 2-3 years. But also, at the end of the day, does it have a positive impact for your brand? And does it sell more product and services? That's what it comes down to. And we go out and we measure that with clients. We've done more than 50 measurement studies the last 12 months with individual clients to see how the impact is. And not all of them are successful because it's still new, we're still learning, we're making mistakes, but most of them are very successful, and our renewal rates of clients is more than 90%. So clients are very, very smart and savvy, so they know it works.
Okay, and in terms of your value add, obviously you mentioned that you sort of get all these different boxes and devices working. You go and gather inventory from across multiple locations. Do you also do the audience definition? So if I came to you and said I want a travel enthusiast, would it be you that defines what a travel enthusiast is and go and find them for me in different places? Because people have different descriptions of what they are.
Yeah, so we obviously, we are planning, we're an agency, we plan on behalf of our clients. And we work with all media owners in the industry that, from a Finecast and TV perspective, that have professional produced content. That's what we believe in. Whoever you work with will have their own definition of audiences. It's our job to go out and get the data we can get and work with our clients and using their data to define that, and then go on and look for that inventory in these different spaces. And therefore there are no broadcasters that are defining exactly the same audiences the same way. So that's what we do and help with.
Okay. And you mentioned on demand. I mean, that's a big part of what you do.
Yeah.
How long do you think the long tail could be for on demand? Because we're seeing lots of direct-to-consumer services launching, streaming. Some of them will be ad-funded. I mean, are you going to be sort of, looking across a long tail of inventory that goes through hundreds and maybe thousands of services one day?
We look at it differently. We look at professional produced content. I used to say quality content, but it's quite subjective what quality content is. As long as we are in an environment where the content is professionally produced, it's at a high level, that's the content we look for. There's a lot of user-generated content that has a great value and has a great place. That's not what we do. And you see all broadcasters all over the world. There are consolidations. There are big acquisitions of content owners by big distributors, and all of a sudden you're merging universes in this whole online digital TV space that enable this professional produced content to be lit up by addressability, and that's what we look at. There will be a lot of apps in OTT devices that are great apps that is not relevant for us, and we won't go after that.
Okay. Well, we've got time for some audience questions if anyone has any, so put your hand up and just wait for the microphone if you have. While we're doing that, I mean, what difference do you think Dovetail will make when we get the figures in where people are really viewing? Do you think that the sort of the headline figures that you see in the news that TV audiences are down will actually be proved wrong? That in total, TV viewing might even be up?
It all depends on how they end up measuring and what they put into that. So it's difficult to say. We don't fully know that yet because they're working on that. But when we look at all the numbers, linear TV is down in different buckets. You can see that BAR publish all these different numbers, but you can also see that the usage of set-top boxes, of on-demand environments, they're exploding. So whether that's the same people that are migrating, we think there's a big overlap between them, and there are new people coming into TV. But net, all these numbers are up a little bit.
Okay. Got any questions from the audience? Okay. Oh, there's one gentleman at the front here. Do you want to wait for the microphone just a second, please? Just introduce yourself if you would as well. Thank you.
Hello. Is that working? Yeah. Stuart Feather from Republican Media. Just wondered about a lot of the studies I've seen regarding effect of TV longer term comes from not only the effect against highly targeted audiences, but the effect against a much broader audience, i.e. what would generally be classed as wastage. So most of the power of the traditional TV comes from that it doesn't actually finally define an audience, it actually generates a mass market. I just wondered what place Finecast had on that.
So I think the question is, correct me if I'm wrong, is what is Finecast is about addressable TV, but their addressable TV is still tiny today, and addressable TV might not be everything in the future, and there will still be a big demand for traditional reach TV.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you've got a narrow audience which you can define very accurately, it's a hugely important way of getting to that audience, but most audiences aren't defined hugely accurately.
Yeah.
And the real value of TV is that it reaches a broad mass audience. Therefore, is Finecast not really killing the golden goose?
No, because there's place for both, and we don't think everything will be addressable TV. We think it's somewhere between 30 to 50% of TV that could be addressable. We think everything one day will be programmatic. Programmatic is just the notion of efficiencies in TV. Instead of doing manual IOs, you have things that are more programmatic and work more efficiently, and that will take maybe 10 years. We still think there's a tremendous amount of use for typical reach TV as we know it today, and we think that's probably the biggest market. You look at we've seen the trend today. branding is very, very important for clients. If you still need to water the tree to harvest the fruit in the future, and if you don't use branding to do that, you become very, very short-sighted. That varies from if you're FMCG clients that have certain issues with very, very big online stores. We all know what they're called. And if your brand is not in there, people won't pick them. Right? The old big online stores will have their own brands, and then all of a sudden you have a problem selling nappies. So you still need to do tremendous amount of branding, and that category is under tremendous amount of pressure on their P&Ls, etc. So it's a vicious circle they need to figure out, and they probably haven't figured that out yet in the sense of how they use branding. There's another example for cars. If you just get your license and you have a relatively small household income, you might not go out and buy a big Mercedes. But then 20 years later, when you can afford that, you still need to have that brand affinity for that brand, because otherwise Lexus and BMW will be out there. So we are not saying it's all about addressable TV. We are saying you need to figure out when it's right for you, whatever brand it is, whatever you want to achieve.
Okay, I think that's a great place to leave it. So thank you very much, Jakob.